A millionaire can't negotiate until his housekeeper reveals her hidden talent. Ricardo Santos slammed his fist on the mahogany table, abruptly hanging up the phone. Another lost contract, another rejected offer. His construction company, once the largest in Sao Paulo, was now on the verge of bankruptcy. Mariana Oliveira, the housekeeper, pretended to be busy arranging books on a shelf, but her ears caught every word of the argument. For several months, she had observed her employer making the same negotiation mistakes, missing opportunities that seemed obvious to her. "Damn it!" Ricardo shouted, throwing papers on the floor. "How did that idiot Ferreira manage to outsmart me again?" Mariana bent down to gather the scattered documents. Her eyes quickly scanned the terms of the rejected contract, and she almost gasped aloud, seeing glaring errors. The terms were completely unfavorable, the deadlines unrealistic, and the guarantees insufficient. "Excuse me, Mr. Ricardo," she said softly, tidying the papers. "I dropped them by accident." Ricardo barely glanced at her, deep in gloomy thoughts. Santos Construções had been founded by his father 40 years ago, and now he watched everything crumble before his eyes. The last 2 years had been a nightmare of lost contracts, incompetent executives, and wrong decisions. "Mariana, bring me strong coffee," he mumbled, sinking into the leather armchair. While preparing coffee in the kitchen of the luxurious penthouse in Maima, Mariana thought about what she had just seen. This contract was a trap from the start, but Ricardo couldn't see it. She bit her lip, fighting the urge to say something. At 28, Mariana had been working as a housekeeper for the Santos family for 5 years. She was an intelligent and observant woman with delicate features and expressive eyes that always seemed to analyze everything around her. Her dark skin glowed even under a simple work uniform dress. Returning with the coffee, she saw Ricardo with his head in his hands. On the floor, scattered in disarray, lay other contracts and proposals she recognized from previous days. "Your coffee, Mr. Ricardo." "Thank you, Mariana." He took the cup without looking up. "You can start cleaning. I'll stay here, thinking about how to explain to my wife that we lost another deal." Mariana hesitated for a moment, then bent down again to tidy the papers, but this time she couldn't hold back. "Mr. Ricardo, may I ask a question?" He looked up in surprise. In 5 years, Mariana had never interfered with his professional affairs. "Of course, speak." "Did you notice that in this contract," she pointed to a specific document, "Clause 12 completely contradicts Clause 7? Ricardo blinked several times, took the paper, and read where she was pointing. His eyes slowly widened. What do you mean by that?" Mariana took a deep breath. The moment she had both feared and awaited for months had arrived. In Clause 7, they guarantee material delivery by the 10th of each month. But in Clause 12, it states that any delay in delivery gives them the right to a 5% penalty of the total contract amount. This means if they delay even by 1 day, you lose money, not them. A profound silence fell, so deep that Mariana could hear her own heart. Ricardo stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. You understand contracts?" "A little," she replied, lowering her eyes. Ricardo rose from his chair. "Mariana, my lawyers didn't notice this. My accountant didn't notice. How did you?" Dear listener, if you like this story, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It helps us, who are just starting out, a lot. Let's continue. Mariana felt a blush spread across her face. For 5 years, she had hidden her true education from everyone in the house. Studying in the evenings after a full day's work was not easy, but she managed to get a degree in accounting from a state university. No one knew that she kept her diplomas and certificates in the small maid's room at the back of the house. I studied something," she mumbled. "What exactly?" "Accounting and management, in the evenings after work." Ricardo paced back and forth in the room. Suddenly he stopped and looked directly at her. "Mariana, I need you to be completely honest with me. How good are you at this?" She hesitated. Telling the truth could change everything for better or worse, but seeing the desperation in his eyes, she decided to take the risk. I graduated with an accounting degree 2 years ago and finished my master's in business management last semester. Ricardo's jaw almost dropped. You're an accountant, and you work here as a housekeeper? Yes. Mariana straightened her shoulders. I couldn't find a job in my field. They always require experience, and no one gives beginners a chance. So, I continued working here to support my family. Ricardo sat down again, running his hands through his gray hair. At 45, he had inherited the company from his father, not truly prepared. He had charisma and determination, but lacked the technical knowledge for the complexities of modern business. Mariana, tell me honestly, have you seen the contracts that pass through this office? Not intentionally, Mr. Ricardo, but when I clean the office, sometimes it's impossible not to notice, and I start to worry. About what? Mistakes? There are too many, and they could be avoided. Ricardo stood up again and walked to the window overlooking the city. Below, the traffic in Sao Paulo bustled as always, but he barely paid attention. His mind was contemplating a possibility that seemed both absurd and brilliant. Mariana, if I ask you to look at the contract I just lost, can you pinpoint the problems? I can. And if I ask you to analyze the proposal I need to present tomorrow to Almeida E. Phyllis Construction Company, can you do that too? Ricardo turned to her. His eyes gleamed with a hope he hadn't felt in a long time. Then please help me. I don't know what to do anymore. Mariana felt her heart clench. For years she had dreamed of such an opportunity. But now that it was before her, fear took over. Mr. Ricardo, what if I make a mistake? If I give bad advice and you lose even more money? Mariana, I'm already losing everything. The company hasn't secured a decent contract in 3 months. My employees are afraid of being laid off. My wife is desperate, and I don't know where to turn. He looked at her with complete sincerity. You might be my last chance. Mariana's heart beat faster. She looked at the papers scattered on the table, then at Ricardo, and made a decision that would change her life forever. Okay, I'll help you. Ricardo took the proposal he was to present the next day and handed it to her. This should impress old Almeida. It's a shopping center project in the Eastern District. If I get this contract, I can save the company. Mariana took the documents and began to read carefully. Her expression changed several times as her eyes darted across the pages. Ricardo watched her every reaction, trying to understand what was on her mind. May I speak frankly? She finally asked. Please. This proposal is good, but not excellent. To beat the competition, you need something excellent. What's missing? Mariana pointed to the expense table. Here, the material calculations are overestimated by at least 15%. This makes the offer more expensive than it needs to be. And here, she turned the page. The schedule is too conservative. You can deliver the project at least a month earlier than you promise, and that would be a huge advantage. Ricardo sat down next to her at the table, examining the points she indicated. How do you know I can deliver earlier? Because I know the suppliers you use. When I answer the phone here, I always talk to them. People from Maria's store, your Antonio, for example, now have more free time. And the guys from Mr. Jose's scrap metal warehouse can always deliver faster if the order is large. Ricardo looked at her with growing admiration. You pay attention to all this? I've always been interested in this field, and working here, I learned a lot about suppliers, competitors, clients. It wasn't intentional, but it happened naturally. Over the next 2 hours, Mariana helped Ricardo revise the entire proposal. She identified areas where costs could be saved without sacrificing quality, suggested improvements to the schedule, and even noticed opportunities for additional services. Mariana, this is amazing, Ricardo said, looking at the updated version of the proposal. With these changes, our offer will be at least 20% more competitive, and our profit margin will improve. Are you sure? I don't just want to be sure, yes. Ricardo squeezed her hands. You did in 2 hours what my consultants couldn't do in 2 weeks. At that moment, the office door opened and Mrs. Silvana Santos entered. Ricardo's wife was an elegant woman of 42, always impeccably dressed and made up. She stopped at the door, seeing her husband holding the housekeeper's hands. Ricardo, what's going on here? Ricardo quickly released Mariana's hands and stood up. Silvana, you won't believe it. Mariana? Silvana raised an eyebrow. What does the housekeeper have to do with your business? She's an accountant, Silvana, and she just revised the shopping center proposal. It's perfect. Silvana looked from Ricardo to Mariana. Her expression changed from surprise to disbelief. An accountant? What do you mean, an accountant? Mariana also stood up, feeling the tension in the air. Mrs. Silvana, I studied in the evenings while working here. I graduated 2 years ago. Why did you never tell us about this? Why? Because I thought it wasn't relevant to my work here. Silvana crossed her arms, her voice growing colder. Ricardo, can I speak to you alone? Of course. Mariana, thank you very much for your help. We'll discuss this further tomorrow. Mariana nodded and left the room, but couldn't help but overhear the beginning of the ensuing argument. Ricardo, have you gone mad? Silvana's voice echoed down the hallway. To let the housekeeper interfere in your business? Silvana, she saved the proposal. What if she's deceiving you? What if this is some kind of trick? Mariana went to the kitchen with a heavy heart. She knew she was treading on dangerous ground, but she didn't regret helping. For 5 years, she had watched Ricardo struggle to keep the company afloat, and now, when she could finally truly help, she didn't want to back down. That night, after the owners had gone to bed, Mariana couldn't sleep in her small room, thinking about what had happened. She took out the diploma hidden in her drawer and hugged it to her chest. For a long time, she had dreamed of the opportunity to use her knowledge, and now she was here, but with problems she hadn't expected. The next morning, Ricardo got up early and immediately went to look for Mariana in the kitchen. Good morning, Mariana. Did you sleep well? Good morning, Mr. Ricardo. Yes, I did, thank you. Listen, about yesterday, my wife was a little worried. Mariana stopped stirring the eggs in the pan. I understand. If you wish, I can pretend nothing happened. No, that's not the point, Ricardo approached. Mariana, your help can save my company, but I need to be sure you're ready for this. Ready? How? This morning, at the presentation for Mr. Almeida, I want you to come with me. The fork slipped from Mariana's hand and fell to the floor. What do you mean, Mr. Ricardo? I want you to be my consultant. If they ask a technical question I can't answer, you'll help me. But I'm a housekeeper. You're an accountant, Mariana, and very competent, judging by what I saw yesterday. Ricardo placed a hand on her shoulder. I know it's strange. It might be difficult, but I really need your help. Mariana felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was the chance of her dreams, but also the biggest risk of her life. And what will Mrs. Silvana say? Leave Silvana to me. The main thing now is to save the company. 2 hours later, Mariana was sitting in the passenger seat of Ricardo's BMW, dressed in a suit borrowed from Silvana, and holding a folder with all the proposal documents. Her hands trembled slightly, but her mind was focused. Nervous? Ricardo asked, driving. A little. This is my first real business consultation. You'll do fine. I believe in you. The headquarters of Almeida y Phyllis Construction Company was in the city center, in an imposing 20-story building. As they went up to the boardroom on the 15th floor, Mariana's legs trembled. Mr. Santos, Joaquim Almeida greeted them, a man in his 60s with gray hair and a sharp gaze, punctual as always. Mr. Almeida, thank you very much for receiving us. Ricardo shook his hand. This is Mariana Oliveira, our financial consultant. Mariana extended her hand, trying to control her nervousness. It's a great pleasure, Mr. Almeida. Likewise, Miss Oliveira, he greeted politely, but Mariana noticed his assessing look. Please sit down. The meeting began with Ricardo's presentation of the main project. He looked more confident than Mariana had seen him in months, and she realized that the changes made truly made a difference. Interesting, Joaquim said after the presentation. But I need to better understand the figures. Miss Oliveira, can you explain how you arrived at these material costs? The moment had come. Mariana took a deep breath and began to explain. Of course, Mr. Almeida. We based our calculations on 3 different quotes for each type of material, always choosing certified suppliers. For example, for structural steel, we are working with an average price of 2,400 reais per ton, which is 15% below the average market price because we have a long-term partnership with a steel mill. Joaquim nodded, impressed by the accuracy of the information. And the deadlines? How do you guarantee that you can deliver the project a month earlier than your competitors? Because we studied all the suppliers' schedules, Mariana replied, gaining confidence. In the process, we identified that by changing the order of the phases, we can optimize time without compromising quality. For example, while the foundation is being prepared, we can simultaneously manufacture prefabricated structures. Over the next 40 minutes, Joaquim asked questions one after another, and Mariana answered everything accurately and confidently. Ricardo watched with admiration as she mastered every technical and financial aspect of the project. Impressive, Joaquim finally said. In 30 years in construction, I've rarely seen such a complete and well-founded analysis. Thank you, Mr. Almeida, Ricardo replied proudly. Mr. Santos, I'll be frank with you. I've received 5 proposals for this project and yours is technically superior, but I need to consult with my partners before giving a final answer. You have my phone number until the end of the week. When they left the building, Ricardo was ecstatic. Mariana, you were perfect. Absolutely perfect. I've never seen old Almeida so impressed. Do you really think we have a chance? I'm sure. Ricardo stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and looked at her. Mariana, I need to make you an offer. What kind? I want you to stop being a housekeeper and come work with me at the company as a real financial consultant. Mariana's heart beat faster. Mr. Ricardo, I know this is a big step, but you have too much talent to waste it cleaning houses. With your help, I can rebuild the entire company. And Mrs. Silvana, what will she say? Ricardo's expression grew serious. Silvana needs to understand. We're talking about the survival of the company, Mariana, and you could be the key to saving everything. At that moment, Ricardo's phone rang. It was Joaquim Almeida. Mr. Santos, Joaquim Almeida said, I just left a meeting with my partners, and we have a decision. Ricardo put the call on speaker so Mariana could hear. Listening, Mr. Almeida? The project is yours, Mr. Santos. Congratulations, dear listener. If you like this story, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It helps us, who are just starting out, a lot. Let's continue. Ricardo and Mariana exchanged disbelieving glances. After months of lost contracts, they finally had a victory. Mr. Almeida, thank you very much. You won't regret it, I'm sure. But I want to clarify something. Part of my decision is based on Miss Oliveira's competence. I hope she continues to be involved in the project. You can be sure of that, Ricardo replied, looking at Mariana with gratitude. When they hung up, Ricardo hugged Mariana right there on the sidewalk. We did it. We did it, Mariana. I can't believe it worked out, she said, still in shock. It worked out because you're brilliant, and now I have a serious offer. Mariana Oliveira, I want you to be my partner. Partner? A minority one, of course, 5% of the company, but with an executive salary and a share of the profits. Mariana felt her legs weaken. This was everything she had dreamed of, yet it seemed too impossible to be true. Mr. Ricardo, I need to think about it. Of course, but don't delay, because I want to start rebuilding everything as soon as possible. The ride home was quiet. Each was lost in their own thoughts. Ricardo planned how to use this contract to secure others, and Mariana tried to grasp the magnitude of the changes that were about to happen in her life. When they arrived at the penthouse, Silvana was already waiting, visibly agitated. And how did the meeting go? We got the contract, dear. Ricardo hugged his wife. Mariana was fantastic. Silvana forced a smile, but Mariana noticed the tension behind it. Excellent. Congratulations, Silvana. I need to talk to you about something important, Ricardo said. I want to offer Mariana a partnership. Silvana's smile completely vanished. Partnership? Ricardo, let's talk in the bedroom. He interrupted her, realizing the situation was escalating. Mariana, can you leave us for a minute? Mariana nodded and went to the kitchen, but again couldn't help but overhear the argument that began. Ricardo, have you lost your mind? Silvana's voice echoed down the hallway. A partnership with the housekeeper. She's not just a housekeeper, Silvana. She's educated, competent, and she just brought us our first contract in months. And you think you can trust her so easily? I trust her more than those executives who almost ruined the company. Ricardo, think about what you're doing. You don't even know her family, her background, anything. What if she has hidden motives? What hidden motives, Silvana? She's worked here for 5 years. If she wanted to do harm, she would have done it long ago. The argument continued for another 20 minutes. Silvana's voice grew louder and Ricardo's became firmer. Mariana felt terrible for causing problems in her employer's marriage, but at the same time, she couldn't deny that this was the chance of a lifetime. When the argument finally ended, Ricardo found Mariana in the kitchen. Mariana, I'm sorry about this. My wife is worried, but she'll understand. Mr. Ricardo, maybe I shouldn't accept the offer? I don't want to cause problems in your marriage. No, Mariana, I won't let prejudices stand in the way of what can save our company. Ricardo sat down at the kitchen table. But I need to ask you some personal questions to clarify everything. Of course. Ask away. Your family. Tell me a little about them. Mariana took a deep breath. This was a part of her life she rarely shared. My mother, Conceição, works as a cleaner at the hospital. My father died when I was 15. I have a younger brother, Pedro. He's in his last year of school. Why did you choose to work as a housekeeper if you have an education? Because I needed a job that allowed me to study in the evenings, and because Mrs. Silvana gave me this chance when I needed it most. My mother was unemployed then, and this job saved our family. Ricardo nodded, his expression serious. Mariana, I'll be honest with you. My wife is afraid you have interests beyond professional ones. She thinks you might be interested in me or our money. Mariana felt her face flush with indignation, but she controlled her voice. Mr. Ricardo, I have great respect for you and Mrs. Silvana. I've never had any intentions other than professional ones. All I want is the opportunity to apply my knowledge to help the company and grow professionally. I believe in you, Mariana, and I'll do this. We'll start with a 3-month trial period. You'll work as a consultant with a corresponding salary, but the partnership will be suspended until everyone feels comfortable with this situation. This is a fair compromise, and Mariana knew she couldn't ask for more. I accept, Mr. Ricardo, and I promise I won't disappoint you. I'm sure of it. Ricardo stood up. Tomorrow morning, I want you to come with me to the company. We'll start analyzing all current contracts. That evening, Mariana called her mother to tell her the news. Mom, something incredible happened today. Tell me, daughter. The boss found out I'm educated and offered me a job in his company as a financial consultant. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Mariana, my daughter, are you sure this is true? Is this not some strange situation? No, Mom, it's serious. Today I helped him get a big contract. He saw that I know what I'm doing. And what did the mistress say? She's a little worried, but Mr. Ricardo said everything would be fine. Daughter, be careful. Sometimes what seems too good brings problems. I know, Mom, but this is the chance I've always waited for. I'll be careful, but I can't miss it. The next morning, Mariana put on the borrowed suit again and went with Ricardo to the office of Santos Construções. The 5-story building in the Vila Madalena neighborhood was smaller than she expected, but it was constantly buzzing with employees and clients. Guys, I want to introduce you to Mariana Oliveira, Ricardo said, gathering the team in the conference room. She will be working with us as a financial consultant for the next 3 months. The employees politely greeted Mariana, but she noticed several curious and suspicious glances, especially from the company's chief accountant, Osvaldo Mendez, a 50-year-old man who had worked there for 15 years. Mariana, this is Osvaldo, our chief accountant, Ricardo introduced him. It's a pleasure, Mariana said, extending her hand. Likewise, Osvaldo replied, but his handshake was cold. In what specific area will you be working? I'll be helping with contract and proposal analysis, Mariana explained. I see, Osvaldo exchanged a glance with Ricardo. And what's your education? I graduated from the Faculty of Accounting at the State University. Ah, State University. Osvaldo's tone was clearly dismissive. Interesting. Ricardo noticed the tension and interrupted. All right, everyone, let's get to work. Osvaldo, I need you to come to my office in 15 minutes. Mariana, come with me. I'll show you where you'll be working. Ricardo led Mariana to a small but cozy room with a desk, a computer, and an empty bookshelf. This is your space. I'll ask them to bring all active contracts for your analysis. Mr. Ricardo, the chief accountant isn't very happy with me. Osvaldo is always like that with newcomers, but he's competent in his work. May I ask why you trust me so much? We've known each other for 5 years, but always as employer and housekeeper. Ricardo sat in the chair opposite her desk. Mariana, in the last 2 years, I've hired 3 different consulting companies, spent over 200,000 reais on their services, and none of them could identify the problems you found in 2 hours. Sometimes competence comes from unexpected places. And if I can't help, if I'm not as good as you think, then at least we'll try. But I trust my instinct, and it tells me you can make a difference. In her first days at the company, Mariana immersed herself in the contracts with almost obsessive dedication. She took work home, stayed late at the office, and studied every clause as if her life depended on it. And to some extent, it did. She knew she only had 3 months to prove her worth, and she couldn't afford to waste a single day. By the end of the first week, she had already identified problems in 4 different contracts. One had a clause that cost the company 10,000 reais more per month. Another had an incorrectly calculated deadline that could lead to late penalties. And 2 had very low margins due to calculation errors. Ricardo, I need to show you something, she said on Friday afternoon. Of course, speak. I found several problems in the current contracts. Nothing that would worsen the quality of work, but there are points that reduce our profit. Over the next hour, Mariana presented her findings. Ricardo was impressed not only by the problems identified, but also by the proposed solutions. Mariana, this will save at least 50,000 reais over the next 6 months. If we implement these changes in future contracts, the savings could be even greater. Why didn't Osvaldo notice these things? Mariana hesitated. I think he's too focused on taxes and financial accounting. The problems I found are more related to contract management. I see, Ricardo pondered. Mariana, I want you to take over all contract analysis for the company, new and existing. Mr. Ricardo, won't this create problems with Osvaldo? Leave that to me. Everyone will stick to their own area. At the end of that day, as Mariana was packing her things, Osvaldo appeared at her office door. May I come in? Of course, Mr. Osvaldo. He closed the door and sat opposite her. Mariana, I'll be frank. You're treading on dangerous ground. What do you mean? This company has its own dynamics and established processes. No one likes it when someone comes in and wants to change everything quickly. Mariana felt a shiver of fear, but her voice was firm. I'm just doing the job Mr. Ricardo asked me to do. He's in a difficult situation right now. He's desperate, but this period will pass, and then he'll realize that radical changes aren't needed. Mr. Osvaldo, I respect you and your work here. I'm not trying to take anyone's place. I hope that's true. Osvaldo stood up. Because sometimes, when people rise too quickly, the fall can be painful. After he left, Mariana remained alone in the office, feeling a lump in her throat. She knew she had made an enemy, but she didn't know what to do about it. That night, upon arriving home, she found her mother waiting for her in the small room of their apartment, which they shared in the eastern district of the city. Daughter, how was work today? Good, Mom. I really like it. And are your colleagues treating you well? Mariana hesitated, not wanting to worry her mother, but she needed someone to talk to. Most of them, yes, but there's one employee who isn't very happy about my presence. What did he do? Nothing special, he just made it clear that he doesn't want changes in the company. Conceição Oliveira was a 52-year-old woman who had raised 2 children alone after her husband's death. She had the wisdom of a person who had gone through many life difficulties. Daughter, when you're in a new role, there will always be those who aren't happy. The main thing is to do your job well and not give them reasons to complain. I know, Mom. It's just sometimes I'm afraid that all this is too good to be true. Mariana, you studied hard to achieve what you have. You deserve this opportunity. Just don't forget where you came from, and don't let success go to your head. The following Monday, Ricardo came to the office with renewed energy. The contract with Almeida y Phyllis Construction Company had officially begun, and he was eager to show other clients that Santos Construções could be successful. Mariana, I have a surprise for you, he said, entering her office. What surprise? I arranged a meeting with the developer Parana Empreendimentos. They have a residential complex project that could be worth over 2 million reais. This is fantastic. I want you to come with me to the presentation as my official consultant. Mariana felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Every opportunity was also a great challenge. The meeting is on Wednesday, and this time I want you to prepare the entire proposal. Budget, schedule, profitability analysis, all the responsibility is on you. Mariana was determined not to fail. She spent the next 2 days immersed in spreadsheets, quotes, and market research. She worked late at the office and took materials home for further analysis. On Tuesday evening, as she was checking the numbers one last time at the office, she noticed she wasn't alone. Osvaldo had come in, even though it was almost 8 p.m. Working late? He asked. I'm finishing the proposal for tomorrow. May I take a look? Maybe I can help. Mariana hesitated but didn't want to be impolite. Of course. Osvaldo came over and looked over her shoulder as she explained the calculations. He asked a few questions and offered sensible advice. It's coming along well, he finally said. Just one thing. Did you check